Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar brought to you by the Content Marketing Institute and our friends at Velir. I'm Stephanie Stahl, General Manager for CMI. I'm so happy to have you all here. Today, we're going to be talking about the 5 C's of success for marketers in 2024. What are the 5 C's? Hold up. You will find out in just a few minutes. We've got 2 great speakers here today to help inspire and educate you. Before I introduce them, please take a look at this slide. This is sort of the housekeeping. Essentially, you can ask a question at any time. Look for that Q&A box on your console. You can put a question in there, hit submit. It'll come right to us. We'll try to answer as many as we can during the session. Also, look for that paperclip icon. If you click on that, you can go get some valuable resources from today, including a copy of the slides. And in about 24 hours or so, we will send you a link to watch the on-demand version of today's live session. If you want to watch it again, if you'd like to share it with one of your coworkers, it'll be waiting for you in your inbox in about 24 hours or so. Okay, please welcome to the virtual stage Heather Poland, who is the Global VP of Customer Transformation at Sitecore. Hello, Heather. And Jill Grozowski-Robertson, she is the VP of Digital Marketing at Velir. Hi, Jill.
Hi, Stephanie.
So nice to have you both here. I will turn the microphone over to you, and I'll see you in just a little bit for some Q&A from the audience.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. As Stephanie said, we are talking about the 5 C's of success for marketers in 2024. Pretty hot topic as we're ending 2023. There's been a lot of research and predictions about what next year is going to look like. So we're hoping to give you some tips and kind of shepherd you through what that can look like for you and your marketing teams. And again, I'm Jill Grozowski-Robertson, Vice President of Digital Marketing at Velir. We're a full-service digital agency, and we help our clients deliver extraordinary experiences that really connect audiences and elevate brands, especially in this digital era that we're living in. So really excited to be presenting alongside Heather. And so Heather, I'll pass it over to you and to get us started.
Perfect. Thanks, Jill. Again, I'm Heather Poland. I work at Sitecore. Sitecore is an organization that provides a lot of the technology you may run your digital marketing on. And so excited to be presenting with you today, Jill, and talking about the 5 C's of success for marketers. When I think about this, it is hard out there for marketers right now. It is hard to break through the noise. It is hard to grab that attention of your customers and really have meaningful, engaging interactions. And when you think about that, a lot of it is that the customer is looking for authenticity. They're looking for brands to tell a story and to reach through all that clutter and all that noise and tell them something that's meaningful. I don't know about all of you, but in my daily life, I feel like I am constantly spammed. So it is very, very often that I open up my emails or I'm on social media or any other area of my life, and all of this information is coming at me and I'm deleting it. I'm either flipping and swiping right through it, or I'm literally deleting it. It's hard to get my attention. And it's even harder when I'm a little bit suspicious of, I'm getting all of this spam. You clearly know who I am, but are you really using my data in a way that's productive and relevant for me? Or are you using it in a way that makes some of this personalization almost feel creepy, if you will, a little too close to home and maybe a little bit too much? Sorry. Half the battle is being able to advance your own slides. So, we've got that challenge, breaking through and becoming an authentic brand. And then all of us marketers also have the challenge of the internal pressures. So challenges internally, such as proving ROI and using analytics to do that. And it's not just about proving the ROI with analytics, it's also about aligning your organization around those analytics that you're going to prove the ROI with and getting everybody on the same page. It's about data and having the right data and using it at the right time and having that data be accessible in a way that you can actually use it. And then other things that creep into this picture from an internal perspective also come down to a lot of talent. Do you have the right talent? Is the talent on the right task? Do you have them doing the right thing? Should it be internal talent? Should it be contract talent? What does that look like to best operate as an efficient organization? And all of this is occurring. Our customers want more. We have all these internal hurdles that we have to achieve. And yet 75% of us are being asked to do more with less. And that seems to be an ongoing trend over the past couple of years. More with less, more with less. And as we think about doing more with less in this space, it's really about operationalizing, becoming more efficient and more effective, and really having to look at how we go to market, how the marketing function operates as a whole to get to a more efficient and effective place. So we've got these challenges. We've got to break through all of the noise. The cost is increasing, but our budgets are not. And you've got all of this new technology entering into the landscape. And so sometimes it feels like you're in a world of buzzword bingo, where there's a new word, and then there's a new word, and then there's a new word. And it's easy to just chase those buzzwords versus come up with a complete strategy. And so we have to all do more content, more measurement, more engagement, more data. And we all have to do it with less budget, less resources, less time, and less focus. Because like I just mentioned, there is a lot going on. And so how do we move forward? What does that look like in this with all of these challenges ahead of us? You know, as we think towards 2024, it's really about changing consumer behavior and leveraging advancements in technology. And so in 2024, you have to change behavior, get your customer to move from interest. Hey, I just saw this really cool pair of sneakers. Oh no, now I was retargeted that pair of sneakers. I am super interested in that pair of sneakers, but I keep looking at it. I don't feel like I'm ready to buy it. To wait, I love that pair of sneakers. I'm going to get it before it's gone. I've got to move to action, and we've got to get our customers to move to action. So how? What does that look like? How do we do this? The way we do it is by delivering amazing experiences. And so what I'm going to do is hand it to Jill. And Jill, I'd love for you to talk to us about amazing experiences.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Yeah, as we were prepping for this webinar, I was really trying to think about the things that have wowed me, right? And naturally, I think a lot of us go back to certain brands that have impressed us. But for me, it was a recent experience last year that really kind of got me thinking about what it means to deliver an amazing experience. And that's the Savannah Bananas. So I don't know how many of you have heard about the Savannah Bananas. They are definitely catching on. So I have a really quick 1-minute video. It might take a second to load, but I'm going to get you introduced to them so that you can see what all the hype is about.
Welcome to the greatest show in sports. It's the opening night of the 2023 Banana Ball World Tour from West Palm Beach, Florida. This is my first Bananas game, and I love it.
You hear those fans? We can't even hear ourselves down here. So the guys are just amped up. There, it's going to be great.
And the ball's on fire!
My goodness.
Dude, there's so much energy right now. This ballpark is 10 times crazier than it was last year. These people are going nuts, and we're having a whole lot of fun, man.
There's a high fly ball, deep to center field. The Nanners win 5-4.
Everything that could have went right, from entertainment to baseball to how it ended, was so exhilarating. It's the best show we've ever put on.
Awesome. So I went to a Savannah Bananas game last year with my sister-in-law and my brother-in-law, and it was one of the coolest experiences. Everything from even when the when the players march into the stadium, it's a parade. You get in, there's free food. We got to go on the field and meet the banana mascot. My husband and his brother were in the bullpen. Ran into a family friend, and it was just, everything about it was so amazing. And Jesse Cole, who's the founder of Savannah Bananas, really focuses on this fan first experience. And I really think that it's defining or redefining what it means to really deliver a customer centric experience. And so Jesse Cole, again, who's the founder, found this quote. He says, "The first fan is yourself. You can't create fans until you're a fan of what you do." And so that's why we're here to talk about the 5 C's, so that as you go into 2024, you can be your biggest fan and really take your marketing to the next level. And I love this. So as I was prepping for this, I found out that Jesse Cole has the 5 E's when he thinks about the fan first experience: eliminate friction, entertain always, experiment constantly, engage deeply, and empower action. And so lucky for you guys, why you're here is that we have the 5 C's. So we'll take you through each one of these and hopefully allow you to become fans of your marketing first and really take your marketing to the next level in 2024. So I will take us through our first C here, which is coordinated operations. And so let's be honest, this is really how consumers feel today with the sheer amount of marketing content that we're throwing at them. You know, Heather, you talked about all of the spam that you're getting, and we're really living in this world of more, where we have resorted back to this really quantity over quality state of content. And when it comes to consumer outreach. And the thing about bombarding our customers with messages and offers and promotions and content is that we're not breaking through the noise, as Heather mentioned. And so when we look at some of the numbers around just the sheer volume of content that's being created, there are 4.6 billion pieces of content produced daily. And that's a lot of content. But while there's a lot of content being created and published, there's even more content behind the scenes that's going unused. And here we can see that 56% of content goes completely unused. So this means that we as marketers, we're really spinning our wheels. We're spending hours of our day creating content basically for no reason, since it's never getting to our intended audiences. And the reason that this is happening is because our content creation process is broken. Right? A lot of organizations are creating content in silos. The email team creates their own content. The social team creates their own content. The web team, and you kind of get it. So to be more effective in 2024, teams really need to find a better way to coordinate content creation to help break through that noise in terms of content marketing today. So in 2024, the first C, marketers really need to focus on centralizing content operations for efficiency and effectiveness. And when we say content operations, this is really the backbone of content management. It's enabling businesses to really efficiently handle content throughout its entire life cycle. So from ideation to publication and beyond, content operations really streamlines that entire process and really makes sure that you have that consistent and coherent brand message across all of the various channels that we all know that we have to be on. And so to really do this, you know, we want to think about establishing a single source of content truth. You know, we've talked about, not on this webinar yet, but, you know, historically talking about the connection of data and centralizing customer information in a CRM. But really, when it comes to content, we need to think about it the same way. The challenge that organizations are facing today is that just the sheer number of tools that it takes to get content from an idea to your target audience is just immense, right? You might use a Miro board or Asana to start ideating or assigning tasks. Some people create content in Word. Some people create content in Google Docs. Then it's stored somewhere, maybe Box, maybe Dropbox, maybe SharePoint, maybe all of them. Then it's sent for review. Then there's edits. Then you have to send it back for approval. And so you get the idea. But ultimately, when you're using multiple tools and these things aren't connected or centralized, you have timeline delays. You're investing in a lot of tools. It's costly. And so thinking about really a content operations tool or a content hub of sorts can really help to bring your teams together and start to eliminate a lot of that overhead around creating content. And so when we invest in a tool like that and invest in content operations, really make it the backbone of our content management, content's just easier to find, right? We're not digging around multiple places where it might be stored. You have better version control in terms of understanding what's a draft and what's actually final that should go out. You have better consistency in terms of your brand, your tone of voice. You're also able to then get reuse and repurposing out of the content, right? One of the biggest challenges when content just lives everywhere is that teams don't know what exists. And so when you centralize content, you create that transparency into what you have, what assets have been created maybe for other channels. Now you have the opportunity to reuse it and repurpose it across different efforts. So something created for email can now be leveraged for social or in a different part of a campaign. And all of this leads to just way better collaboration, faster time to market, and really just allowing you to better track content performance, which is huge, right? We want to be able to work smarter and not harder for our content. So having visibility into how things are performing within their designated campaigns and designated channels is so important. And so Heather, I will pass it over to you to take us to our next C here.
Thanks, Jill. The next C is composable cloud MarTech. So composable cloud MarTech, this is a great quote. Like gamblers looking to write off their losses with the next bet, CMOs are attracted to the allure of newer technologies. While this hunger to invest is understandable, it illustrates the sunk cost fallacy that most tech is always better. And I don't know about all of you, but I can tell you that what I see across the globe is that we are always searching for the next best technology. And sometimes there is a need for technology, but sometimes what we already have at our fingertips might actually already solve the problem. We just may not know it. So this is really about making sure you're placing your bet on your technology in the right place, not taking a gamble, but doing it, placing that bet with some intent. And what I would say here is that it's not about technology for technology's sake. It's not about more tech. It's about, again, the right tech. What is it you are trying to achieve? And what technology helps you get there? What is going to actually move the bar for your business? And earlier in my introduction, I talked about the buzzword bingo, right? Oh, today we have to have AI, and yesterday it was metaverse and composable and mock, and all of these words are buzzing around our heads. What really matters is, where are you going and what do you need to get there? And so when I think about composable and cloud, I think about the fact that by 2024, the average company will have about 80% of their MarTech and IT hosting in the cloud. That's 80% of their budget they're going to be allocating to the cloud. So this is clearly where we're all going. We're all headed to the cloud. And those that continue and move on this cloud journey, if you can be one of those leaders, there is tremendous value to unlock in the move to the cloud. So again, it's about getting the right technology and getting that right technology that sits in the cloud. The composable piece of being in the cloud is really around looking at your business needs. What is it you need? What does your customer desire? And how is the best way to get them what they're looking for? And optimizing your stack to meet that need. The benefit as you evolve that strategy, because as we all know, the strategy evolves. You're not going to have the same strategy today as you probably do in 6, 12, 18, 24 months. You will most likely go through multiple iterations, whether there's a change in the economy, external factors hit us, you have a new product introduction you weren't expecting, something happens, your customers react in an overly positive way, you have to change that strategy. And so as you look to what's the best way to change the strategy, you need to quickly be able to get in and out of technology, plug technology in, pull it out, swap what you're using from a technology standpoint to get the outcome that you so desire and that your customer desires. And so composability and being in the cloud gives you that benefit. You're no longer in one big piece of technology that sits there that you have to work with and that feels like it takes you forever. You can quickly get in and out swap technologies, and swap experiences for your customer. And so the imperative for 2024 is really about eliminating tech debt. And by eliminating tech debt, what I mean here is the old world of we've got to do a lot of upgrades. We need to look at how many hours of development cycle we have. We're going to take a big chunk of those and we're going to put them aside because we have to upgrade. We want to create something new that maybe has broken or replaces something that's broken. All of these things that we used to have to do that we would refer to as tech debt, so things that weren't growing the business, rather were essential to maintaining the business, start to go away. And as those start to go away, that tech debt starts to go away, it opens up the opportunity for your tech stack to really be additive to your digital marketing plan. And so I've mentioned a few of these, but benefits of embracing a cloud and composable strategy. It's all about speed, right? It's about familiar tools, things being super intuitive, easy to use, and being very fast to execute and go live. Gone are the days of the 12 months to build a website journey. We're not in that anymore. Our customers expect far more. So we need to be talking in days and weeks, not in months and years any longer. Scale. Scale is about how do you grow quickly? How do you keep up and embrace all of those new changes? So it should not be a large learning curve where, again, we send people to 6 different conferences, we do some webinars, we do a bunch of internal talks, and then we feel skilled up and ready to go. Cloud and composable products should be intuitive enough that you can very quickly understand and embrace and start to leverage and use. And then again, I mentioned this, but it's about adding and removing as you need it. So you don't have to run the whole stack all of the time. It's understanding what you need in the moment and being able to tap into those different technologies as you need them, not just because they're there and you have to. It's about lowering costs. We talked about at the beginning about the fact we're all being asked to do more with less. And part of that is, how do you lower your cost? Being in the cloud tends to be more productive. So you tend to be able to go faster, less development hours. We mentioned less tech debt. So you've got less hours going against things that don't matter to the growth of the business, more time for the growth of the business. And you're decreasing that cost of maintenance as you're doing that. And then finally, it's about innovation and creating these unbelievable experiences, quickly innovating, because the technology should be so intuitive, because it should scale so quickly. You should be able to move with innovation, with an innovative speed, the speed of innovation, with accuracy. You shouldn't be far off. The technology should keep the pace. And I like to say, not fail fast, but learn quickly. So learn through your changes. You're not going to alienate your audience. If you throw something out there, I talked about this at the beginning, I'm just going to scroll through it if it doesn't hit for me. You're not going to alienate me with that. But what you are going to do is give yourself the ability to learn and move and innovate very, very quickly.
Perfect.
Okay. And with that, Jill, you have the next C.
You got it. So let's talk content. So we talked about it a little bit up front, but your third C for success here is content in terms of content marketing. And while we know that content is always king or queen, we really have to think about how we're delivering that content in 2024 to really make an impact. And so content continues to be a struggle for marketers. I think we all feel that. We talked earlier about the challenges around content operations and the need to really centralize content across teams. And the reason that this is so important is because when we talk about content and marketers creating that content, it's about getting it in front of the right audience. And that's really where we struggle, right? We see here that 57% of marketers say that creating the right content for their audience is a challenge, right? And so one of the reasons that consumers feel bombarded with content, right? We go back to that girl who's getting the hose in the face. It's because we're sending such a large quantity, right? And we're lacking the quality of message, and we're hoping to break through just by sheer volume. But ultimately what consumers want really is tailored content. And so this chart reflects some B2C data, but the trends for B2B are the same, right? In the sense that consumers want content that is tailored to their needs and it is relevant to them. Otherwise, they're not going to look, as Heather said, it's just going to get into the trash folder. And so that's why in 2024, marketers really need to prioritize personalization. It's truly now or never. And I've been doing a lot of research in terms of 2024 trends, and there are a number of reports that are saying hyper personalization is the trend for 2024. And so what that indicates, at least to me, is that there are a large number of organizations that have already started personalizing, and they're ready to take their efforts to the next level. And so that's why personalization is no longer an option. So if you're not currently personalizing or have a plan in place to start next year, you're going to fall behind the curve. And so you really have to think about how personalization can become an essential strategy for your organization, and how you can use personalization to both engage, attract, and keep loyal customers, and really deliver experiences that they're going to love. And so, speaking of love, the use of personalization in marketing can really help to establish this positive emotional connection. I know it might sound silly, but that's what we want, right? We want to feel connected to a brand. That's going to shorten our sales cycle. There it is, across B2B and B2C. And so, as Heather mentioned, trust in brands is declining, but personalization is ultimately a way to combat that. And so here we see that when a customer receives personalized content and they have this positive emotion, they're 8 times more likely to trust a company. They're 7 times more likely to purchase more, right? Increasing that average order value. And then they're also 6 times more likely to forgive a company's mistake, which is huge because we're not perfect, right? And so that's really why it's so important to focus on personalization, because as we're going into hyper personalized mode next year, anyone who's not personalizing today or has plans to do it, again, is really going to fall behind. And so the thing about personalization will take us to our next C, which is connected data, right? So in order to personalize and truly engage your audiences, you need to know who they are, right? And not just in the form of a persona on a slide, right? You need that customer data, and you need it to be connected so you get that holistic view of what they're doing, of who they are, where they're interacting, their preferences, their last interaction. All of that comes down to connected data. And so when we think about data, we've really made leaps and bounds, right, over the last couple years. We've made this move from a data era, which is really passive, right, in terms of we're just collecting data, to the intelligence era, where we're actively using that. And so what this means is that we're not just collecting data anymore, we're putting it to use for our marketing. And we're letting it inform our efforts so that we're intelligent, right? Again, we're working smarter for our marketing. And while we know third-party cookies are going away, that means we as marketers really have this opportunity to get better, right? To better know our customers through that first-party data, gain their trust, get that information. And while third-party data certainly made things easy, first-party data makes things accurate. And 92% of leading marketers believe that it is critical to their growth to continuously build an understanding of who people are through using first-party data. So it's a great area to focus in. And when we think about that, we also want to make sure that we're connecting that data. So if it's living in different systems, that we're bringing that together, again, to have that holistic view of the customer. And so that's why in 2024, we really want to focus on putting data in the driver's seat of digital customer experiences. And not just any data, but connected data. If your data is living in multiple systems, you really want to focus on bringing that data together so that you have the most accurate and most real-time data on your audiences and their behaviors, because acting on bad data can really be a fatal flaw to all of your marketing efforts. And so when you have centralized customer data, you unlock 2 things. You will unlock insights and actions. You want to use your data to understand various insights that can inform your marketing, such as channels, what channels people are interacting on, what's bringing them to your website, what their preferences are. Are they matching certain patterns of buying, right? What don't they like, right? So that we can avoid promoting something like that. And so then with those insights, now you have the information to take action, right? We're not just collecting data, we're using it. And so whether that's in the form of customer experience changes, right? Nothing wrong with making updates to your website, changing a layout, updating the content, running a few tests, also adjusting how you segment your audiences, or even starting to retire or invest in new marketing technology to help you better engage your audiences, right? So we really want to think about how all of that data, when it's centralized and connected in one place, gives us the insights we need to really take action across the board for all things digital customer experience. And also it's about personalization, right? We touched on that. With those insights informing the actions that you need to take to deepen the engagement with your audiences, you can really now fuel personalization and get more out of your content, get more out of your marketing by making sure that you are both creating the right content for your audiences, right? And that you're also getting it in front of them when they're most receptive to it. And so with that, I will hand it over to you, Heather, for our last C. You're on mute, Heather.
So our last C, thank you, Jill, is clear AI vision. And, you know, AI is one of those buzzword bingo words that I would love to get some like a piece of candy or something every time someone uses it. We seem to all want it, and we all want it now. And I will tell you, last January, when I was facilitating workshops, so part of my core job is to facilitate transformation workshops across the globe. And across the globe, last January, the biggest hot topic was AI is going to take my job. I am sure it's taking my marketing job. Half of us in this room are not going to have jobs. It was constant, no matter where across the globe I was, January, February, March, April. That was the consistent theme and discussion around when and how it was going to happen. I think that once we hit kind of that late spring, early summer, we kind of came off of a little bit of the hype cycle, and we started to talk less about AI replacing me as a human being and replacing my job. And we started to talk more about the fact that AI could enhance the business. It could enhance our roles and how we show up as marketers. And so, 72% of executives believe that AI is a significant business advantage for the future. I think the question is, what does that really mean? What does that mean for you? What does that mean for your competitors? What does it look like? And so as we enter into this, what does it mean phase, there's this hefty amount of skepticism. Is it right? How much work do I have to put into this? What does it really mean to individuals on my team? Is it going to steal my intellectual capital? Should I even be using AI? Is this safe for my brand? Could it degrade the integrity of my brand? So there's all this very healthy skepticism around now as we're starting to get our head around, it's not going to take over our job, but what does it really mean? And so what it all really comes down to for me is that there is this lack of guideline. We're in this phase where you have this amazing tool. We know it's going to have a significant business impact, but we don't know what the kind of guideline for it is, whether it's by a guideline your company has, whether it's how the industry that you're in thinks about it, whether it's just the tech industry as a whole, thinking through, again, what is that guideline? What does it mean? And so as we get into 2024, marketers are going to need to really define their why for using AI. And it's not, again, just about, I want to use AI as a buzzword. It's about how could AI enhance my job, my brand, my organization, my customer, and the experience I provide them. And so what is that why that you have for thinking about leveraging AI. And as you do that, one of the things I would encourage you to do, again, we don't want technology for just technology's sake. And AI could very easily become that if you don't define your why. So think about, what is the problem you're trying to solve for? And I'm not talking about what could AI solve. I'm talking about it at a holistic business perspective. What are the problems you're faced with? What challenges do you have? Think about what those look like. And then start to think about, could AI help in any of these scenarios? And if yes, how? What could that look like? How might you use AI? And then ask yourself the important question, which really is, why AI in this use case? Is there an incremental advantage I get out of leveraging AI versus some other technology or other option that I may already have at my disposal? And so if you can think through your challenges, match them with where you believe AI can be of benefit to you, and then use AI as a point of differentiation, you should have a lot of success as you go forward. And so with that, I think those are our 5 C's. Jill, I'm going to hand it back to you to talk about recapping how to win marketing in 2024.
You got it. Well, hopefully everyone here learned something or is inspired for 2024. I think it's easy to get caught up in kind of the, some of the reports and the gloom and doom, right? But I think it's a really great opportunity for us as marketers to really get creative with what we're doing, right? Rethink either our MarTech stack, our strategies, operationally, how we're thinking about things. And so just to summarize in terms of, planning for your 2024 and what we've covered, right? Foundationally, content is so critical to all of our marketing efforts, right? A lot of times people will equate digital transformation with a website redesign, but foundationally, you need that content to be strong. You need it to be working well. You need it to be streamlined, right? And so going through a process of, finding a way to centralize content, to break down those silos that exist internally for your teams is so important. It's going to create efficiencies for you. It's going to remove a lot of headaches, I promise. And it'll just help with full life cycle marketing efforts, right? So that you really do have full funnel content across all of the channels, and also that you're able to track it and understand what's working, so you're not wasting time on content that's ultimately not performing for you. Second, focus on cloud and composable solutions. As Heather said, it's not about more tech, right? It's about the right tech. And it's okay to go through an evaluation, on a regular basis of, is this system still serving our company, right? It's okay to outgrow technology. But as Heather said, having something that's in the cloud and with composable, right, which is kind of like Lego blocks, you can take things out and put new things in. Having that flexibility to be able to take out a tool and replace it with something that better meets your needs is so critical. And I think really making sure to have a plan on a way to kind of fast track your path to cloud is really critical. And then thinking about the composable solutions that can go along that, because that'll ultimately allow you to do more with less, even though it is an investment up front. But it'll also give you that flexibility you need to really grow. Third, personalization, right? I think we've been talking about personalization for a number of years, but the fact that we are finally seeing a lot of movement in terms of organizations across B2B and B2C really upping their game on personalization does mean that it's now or never to get started. And it's not as hard as people think. It's about building a proof of concept, right? And, just testing it out. Once you get going, then you can keep building the momentum. And I think it's also important to note that with personalization, one of the challenges is having the right content or the volume of content to support it. So if you centralize your content first, then you're also now creating efficiencies for yourself to personalize. Fourth, use data as your superpower, right? Get that holistic view, bring your data points together. Again, you can do this in an iterative way. If you have multiple systems, start by bringing 2 together, then 3, then 4. This is going to allow you to really understand who your audience is and be a proactive participant in their customer journey. And then lastly, as Heather was talking about, defining your why for AI, right? Don't get too caught up in the hype around it. Really take a step back and think about, what does AI mean for you, your team, your organization, and think about how you're going to drive adoption for it. And I think it's also important to note, I mean, AI is so new, right? No one knows the answer yet in terms of the best way to leverage it. And so really trying to think about how to minimize the disruption to your work is important. And that comes with an operational angle that you need to apply to AI. Really trying to make sure, that Heather's not using one AI tool, I'm using a different one, someone over here is using something different. If we're going to use AI, define your why, put it in place, and have conversations about how it's working for you. And if it's not, right? And really figure out the best way to make that part of your everyday marketing if you're seeing the benefits of it. And so with that, just want to thank everybody for joining us. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. At the very least, you learned about the Savannah bananas. So there's that. And so I'll have Stephanie come back and join us, and so we can go through some questions, because I think we have time.
Yes, there were lots of comments about the Savannah bananas and how much people enjoyed it. So thank you for sharing that. We all learned a little bit, I think, about baseball. So thank you. That was fun. Jill, you talked about content ops and the single source of the truth. So a few questions here, but what team would own that? Who owns that? Who says, I'm going to manage the single source of the truth?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, Heather, you probably have an opinion on this as well. I would say from what I've seen, it's typically a marketing team that will kind of have that need, right? Because we're the ones that are trying to juggle content as intakes from multiple different departments. So I've seen marketing teams own that. I've seen some creative teams as well, right? When we think about digital asset management or a DAM, a lot of times a creative team might own that, and that creative content ultimately has an impact on a CMP. Sometimes those things come as a two-in-one. But I've seen marketing and creative teams, but I don't know, Heather, what you've seen.
Yep. And I would add to that too, Jill. I think the other option is more and more we're seeing marketing technology teams pop up. So a MarTech team that sits in the middle of marketing and technology. So they have the marketing chops, but they also have some tech chops. From an operational standpoint, more and more I've seen some of those MarTech operations type teams that straddle marketing and tech also taking ownership. So it really depends on the structure of your marketing team and if you have one of those operations teams, I think.
That's great. Yeah, I've heard a lot about marketing ops too in this
Right.
kind of role. So yeah, that's great. That's great. Okay, so Inga wants to know, what are your recommendations for the best centralized systems to house data that is most cost efficient for a startup? So this is not a big enterprise company, but a startup.
Sure.
What are your thoughts there?
That's a really good question. I'm not too familiar with the pricing on a number of tools, but I mean, you're looking for a customer data platform, right? A CDP. And so, there are some that kind of range and are more tailored to startups. So it might require a little bit of research. And also you can use it as a bargaining chip, right? To help get the best price. But CDPs like Segment are really good. mParticle, Action IQ are three, or Lytics as well, might be things to consider. I know Sitecore also has a CDP. So yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely some good platforms like G2 that can help you get a good understanding in terms of, whether they're enterprise or startup, but those are just a few that I would name, but definitely a customer data platform to start.
Excellent. Okay. You talked about personalization and hyper personalization. Michelle wants to know if you can elaborate a little bit on hyper personalization. What is, give us some examples. What does that look like?
Sure. I'll start, Heather, and feel free to chime in here. When we think about personalization and in the ways that organizations have adopted it, it's been very much segment based, right? We think about one-to-many personalization. That's the best way that people have gotten started, whether it's because it's an undertaking, they don't have enough content to do one-to-one personalization, they don't have the right data. But what we're seeing, what hyper personalization is really having this kind of flexible and scalable personalization model that can intake a very what's the word I'm looking, a very finite data point to deliver one-to-one personalization. In my opinion, when we think about the future of personalization, it's almost like your website has no default content anymore. It's almost like a personal dashboard of sorts, even without logging in. And I think I wouldn't say that's hyper personalization just yet, but that's ultimately what we're marching towards. So in my opinion, it is that next step where we've gone from one to many, which is where a lot of organizations have been getting started. And now we're truly getting to one-to-one personalization, and not just a first name and an email, really based in, a data point that has been collected in real time. So Heather, I don't know if you have other thoughts on that.
I do. I'll give a couple of examples. These are actually real life pilots, if you will, that are going on right now. So one of them is with a major airline. And that major airline, as you walk off their planes, they're testing, taking your photo. They have your data in the background, and then telling you as you walk off the plane in the screen right in front of you, thanks for flying with us, Heather. Head to gate A1. So I don't even have to look at the screen anymore. They tell me immediately. It's big, it's flashing, it's customized and personalized to me on in the minute I'm walking off the plane to tell me to go. It may say you're at your final destination. Here's where you go get your Uber, right? So to really hyper personalize to me in the moment as I'm going through that airport journey. So that would be one example. The other example I have is of a retailer that we're working with. And the example of hyper personalization there is they run a loyalty program. And they were trying to figure out how could their loyalty program start to differentiate. And one of the ways we're doing that is via commerce and pricing. And so if you're a part of the loyalty program, you have this many points, it knocks this percentage off of your price, and you are seeing your specific price based on your previous purchases. What I have is going to be very different than what Jill has, because my purchase behavior, the dollars I've spent, it will be unique to me. So again, another really live example of how this customer in a retail environment is hyper personalizing price to their customers.
To be fair, I will say I've spent some time with Heather, and she has a great wardrobe, and I have asked her to just buy an extra of whatever she buys, so our shopping profile could be the same in the future. I'm just saying.
I'm always using retail examples for some reason too.
Right.
Those are great examples. Those are fantastic examples. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so Maggie says AI is everywhere. Yes, it is. How can we use AI to ensure our messaging varies from our competitors who may be using the same tool, right? Jill, you talked about it within a company, you can't be using a bunch of different tools. But so say your competitors are using the same tool. Maggie says, my concern is that AI doesn't give enough customized results. What are your thoughts?
I'll start. Sure. So this is a huge passion point of mine. So I think it's a great question. The thing about AI is I think we all think about it as this tool that's out of the box that you just go and you reach into. But to really use it appropriately, you have to train it. And so you have to spend time teaching it, telling it how to speak in your voice, how to think about your brand and position your brand. The time AI saves us on the back end is phenomenal, but it's not for nothing. To do it right and to have the right voice and the right brand consistency, you have to spend time training that model up front. And I would also argue you're going to have to spend ongoing time as you evolve your brand, as you see where your customer is going, retraining and constantly feeding that model with data. Now, you will get a tremendous amount of work on as you do that. So it will do a lot of work for you, but it does not take away from the human intervention that's needed from a brand voice, brand perspective. That upfront piece is going to be really important for marketers to be successful. Those that do it well will have amazing results. Yeah. I don't know, Jill, if you have any other thoughts.
I think too, kind of outside of AI, I think it's a great question, Maggie. But when we think about, our competitors are using it too, and it's going to spit out the same content. I think we all need to take a step back, and as we're going through that process, hone in on what your differentiators are first, right? If, I work at a digital agency, there are a ton of other digital agencies out there that all say that they can do strategy, design, digital marketing. What makes Velir different from all the other agencies? For us, it's data. We know what our differentiator is. So even if we were to use AI and go up and create messaging that another agency would create, we weave in that differentiator because it's so rooted in who we are. And to your point, Heather, when we get that content back from an AI tool, that's the first thing that we're weaving in, right, is our differentiator. So I think AI is also forcing us to have those human conversations as a brand and say, who are we? Right? What makes us different? What's our superpower? And how do we bring that to the forefront of all the content that either we're creating or that AI is assisting with?
Fantastic. Okay, so Camille says, do you have a concern that the high supply of content, especially with AI being able to help produce more content than ever, that content will see a reduction in value and demand?
Heather, you go first.
Okay. We may have different opinions on this one, Jill. I'll see.
Okay.
I don't know. My perspective on content is that there's probably already a lot of content out there that doesn't have high relevancy because we like to create content to create content. If you are using the data that you have or investing in data capabilities to understand your customer, so you're creating relevant content, if you are thinking through what that content, where you want to serve it, how you're going to use it as you're producing it, and centralizing it and making sure that it's reusable and all of the things we talked about from a content perspective, it's all housed in that singular component, then it will be used. But I think I'm less worried about the amount of content and us generating all this content that's not used. I think we actually already do a lot of that. I think about it a little bit on the opposite side, which is how do you ensure it gets used when you're using it? And that's really around how you're housing it, what data you're using, making sure you're producing it for relevant matters. I think AI has less of an impact on that. I think we're already a little bit in that phase. I don't know, Jill, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. I think AI is going to reveal when people are lazy. And I think that will start to kind of separate brands out, right? People who want to use, yes, it is a tool and it can help create these things faster, but no one's going to believe that you're actually producing 30 blog posts a day. I mean, come on, right? So obviously an exaggeration, but people who don't use AI correctly and focus on the quality of the output are clearly, it's going to show, right? So I wouldn't be too concerned about that if you're using AI correctly and you, again, have like the right operational process around reviewing what's created. And also just being realistic, about what your customers need. Do they need 17 videos? I don't know. Maybe not. So it's a great question. And I think it is one that we will debate for a while. So.
Excellent. All right. I'm going to try to squeeze in one more here. Another one on personalization. Andrea says, as a large enterprise without the flexibility of adding MarTech at this point, right, and a website without dynamic content capabilities, what is a good starting point towards personalization?
That's a great question. I would say, so first, just from like a tech perspective, even if you don't, I would say without the flexibility of adding MarTech, the starting point is very similar to AI, is to define your why, right? A lot of, personalization is important, but really trying to think about the ways that personalization will benefit your audiences. And then I think taking an inventory of your MarTech as well. Personalization doesn't just need to be site-based, right? You can get more targeted with campaigns, right? Based on different audience data points. You can leverage email marketing and make those hyper personalized, right? Once you get someone to open the email and they can see that it's not just their name, it's, you know, something's carried through from somewhere else that they've experienced. So I think it's less about necessarily having, you know, the appropriate tool to do it on the site, but making sure you have the right data to fuel it where you can, and figuring out, you know, what those possible scenarios could be.
Yeah, and I would add too, Jill, you know, leverage your data. So even if you don't have a CDP, you have a lot of data. You have behavioral data. You know how your customer is interacting with your site. You know how they're interacting with your emails. Whatever tools you have out there, you have a lot of data. And so leverage that data to really understand what's working, what's not working, and let that guide you and lead you through some of those personalization decisions.
Yep.
Excellent. Jill, Heather, thank you so much. So much great advice. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the audience for the questions and for joining us today. Please also join us over at the contentmarketinginstitute.com. We've got lots of content there for you and other resources to help you with your marketing. I also want to tell you about a new program that we have. It's a certification program as part of a collaboration with the American Marketing Association. If you'd like to learn more, there's a website there you can go to if you'd like to be certified in your content marketing skills. Reminder too that in about 24 hours or so, we will send you a link to the on-demand version of today's live session. Watch again if you'd like. There are a lot of good tips today, so you might want to go back and take some more notes. Share with one of your coworkers, but we'll send that to you in about 24 hours, right to your inbox. Thank you all for joining us. Jill, Heather, really appreciate your time today. Such great advice. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.